So we are almost there. One day away from 49ers report at training camp, and Trey Lance throwing some more with Jeff Christensen, the quarterback coach that works on those quick releases. We have new video that was put up on Instagram. Happy to share it with you here on the screen. That's at TCU. Trey Lance has been working out there this offseason with Christensen, who you see in this video. We're going to play it one more time. Christensen's right there. White beard, white hat, working with Trey Lance. This is where Lance was working out with Patrick Mahomes earlier in the offseason. Now, Mahomes was in the American Century Golf Tournament at Lake Tahoe, the one that Steph Curry won a couple weekends ago. Christensen was actually at that tournament to watch Mahomes, and then he flew to Fort Worth to watch Trey Lance. Maybe we can make this a little bit more prominent on the screen to watch a couple more times. But just notice when you are viewing this Trey Lance, that release is much, much snappier than before. I know I've talked a lot about this over the course of the offseason, but I mean, we've seen the videos from 2021. Lance had a big looping release. He was taking the football down below his hips. I'm going to pause this right here. That's not going down at all. He's keeping this ball high. It's exactly what you want. Now, the big issue and the big challenge for Trey Lance is going to be maintaining these good habits even when the live action begins. And training camp first practice is on Wednesday. Veterans are going to report tomorrow on Tuesday. So go time is almost here. And camp pads are on. The quarterbacks can't be hit yet, so it's not going to be fully live action. But I've been talking about the incremental test for Trey Lance this offseason. First, it was doing this kind of stuff in the lab with Jeff Christensen, who swears that Trey Lance is going to look like a different quarterback this year. Then it was going to be taking it to the field in OTAs. And I thought that Trey Lance's release did look better on the field in OTAs, but that was still football and shorts on without contact. Now, the next, the harder challenge now is going to be carrying this over to training camp, where Lance is going to be able to throw against padded defenders with more contact out on the field. And then it's going to come to the preseason. And in the preseason, you can actually hit the quarterback. So I think that's going to be kind of the final boss. And really, if you want to talk about final boss, is going to be regular season defenses. So you could take it a step further, and then you could go into the playoffs, and then you could get all the way to the Super Bowl. 49ers hope that it reaches the ultimate final boss with Trey Lance. But as far as his quick motion work goes, you could tell that at least in the lab, Trey Lance has already gotten a lot better. I mean, look at that. It's so snappy compared to what it used to be. Now, a little bit on Jeff Christensen. He was Jimmy Garoppolo's original quarterback coach. And we know that Garoppolo might have the fastest release in the league. And we know that Trey Lance had one of the slowest releases in the league. We'll see if it gets up to average. We don't expect him to be as quick as Garoppolo. That's just not Trey Lance's strong suit. I think that he has other strengths in his game, but you have to be at a certain level of quickness to succeed in the National Football League, because the edge rushers are coming really quick. The edge rushers are highly skilled. They're going to be targeting that football as they do reach you. So the difference between looping downward and taking an extra 0.3 to half a second with the ball and the difference between those two things can be the difference between a strip sack and a clean release, which can lead to a touchdown, which can be right over a 6-point swing on a certain play, because a strip sack could turn into points going the other direction. So every minute detail is important in the NFL. And then it's also important that you develop consistency with the mechanics so that you're accurate. And the one biggest issue so far with Trey Lance has been the accuracy, right? The release, too slow, the accuracy, too bad so far from Trey Lance, and he's got to get better. This is all stuff the 49ers knew when they drafted him, and they figured they'd be able to oversee Trey Lance's development as moldable clay because he had so little experience in college, and that they could program him to become the quarterback that Kyle Shanahan wants him to be. So that journey continues. It's been obviously delayed by a couple injuries, and now Brock Purdy has stolen the show. So Brock Purdy is the 49ers leader in the clubhouse. Trey Lance is going to have to usurp him. But we've talked about it all season long. Nothing is set in stone. The 49ers are just happy that they have good quarterback options entering this season. If Purdy, we're going to find out tomorrow, is Purdy going to start training camp on PUP, the physically unable to perform list? If he does, big time spotlight on Trey Lance and on Sam Darnold, right? And to a lesser extent on Brandon Allen. But even if Purdy doesn't start on PUP, the 49ers want Trey Lance to succeed, because last year They needed 4 quarterbacks just to get through the whole season. They would have needed 5 to get through the whole season, right? Their fourth one even got hurt. So they were on Christian McCaffrey by the time that it was all said and done against the Philadelphia Eagles. So having more talent and more capable players at the game's most important position is not a bad thing. That's been one of the dumbest narratives of this offseason. People thinking that somehow Kyle Shanahan might have too much of a headache from having too many capable quarterbacks. And no, the 49ers want as many capable quarterbacks as possible. And this, if Trey Lance can port this success mechanically from the offseason into training camp and then the regular season, the 49ers will be all the better for it. If Sam Darnold can port last season's success in 6 games with Carolina into efficiency running the 49ers offense, the 49ers will be all the better for it. If Brock Purdy can take last season's success and spin it forward into 2023, the 49ers will be all the better for it. If Brandon Allen can play like a QB2 and not a QB4 because he was QB2 under Joe Burrow with Cincinnati, the 49ers will be all the better for it. You want more gold, not less of it, right? And quarterbacks are gold in the NFL. They are the most valuable asset in the National Football League. Anybody who thinks that you should have less of the most valuable asset does not know what they're talking about, period. 49ers want more gold, not less of it at the quarterback position. And they have a chance to have more of it with Trey Lance making these mechanical improvements. Now let's wait and see if he can sustain them. In case you took the weekend off, big news for the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo passed his physical with the Raiders, so he's going to open training camp with them this week. That means the 49ers are essentially guaranteed another third-round comp pick. And that wasn't guaranteed before this physical was passed, because if Garoppolo hadn't passed the physical, the Raiders could have parted ways with him. And if that would have happened, then on the compensatory formula, the 49ers wouldn't have had the benefit of a $24 million departure in Jimmy Garoppolo. As it stands, Garoppolo is going to get that $24 million. It's going to cancel out the 49ers signing of Javon Hargrave in the compensatory formula, and the 49ers will get a third-round pick for the departure of Mike McGlinchey to the Denver Broncos. So parting gift from Jimmy Garoppolo, passing the physical, which he couldn't pass earlier because of the injury that he suffered with the 49ers that opened the door for Brock Purdy, right? Broken foot. Garoppolo ended up having to have surgery after the Raiders wouldn't clear him when he came in to sign in March. They said, wait, your foot's still hurt. He needed to have surgery. And, just by the process of deduction, when we look at the paper trail of events, that means if Garoppolo wasn't healthy enough to pass a physical in March, it means that he wasn't healthy enough to return for the 49ers in January, as he had initially hoped. He was trying hard to return, and that discredited a lot of people. A lot of people don't have a lot of credibility talking about the 49ers on the internet. Well, one of the big things was, Jimmy Garoppolo could have come back, but he didn't. Why did he need surgery 2 months after the season if he could have come back 2 months earlier? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but neither does a lot of the stuff that I see on the internet. So that was the big news of Sunday. 49ers will pick up another third-round pick, compensatory selection. And the big news of today is that only one day remains until 49ers veterans report to training camp. I'm flying from Nashville to San Francisco tonight. United direct flight. See you on it if you're on it too. If you're headed to training camp, I think Juwan Jennings took that flight yesterday, so he must already be in the Bay Area. I don't know which one Kittle is on, but Kittle's going from here out to the Bay Area as well. Everybody will meet in Santa Clara. Veterans report on Tuesday, July 25th. That is tomorrow, because today is Monday, July 24th. So the long wait is almost over. I can't wait to land at SFO tonight, get into some cooler weather, and then go down to Santa Clara tomorrow and be back in hotter weather, although it's not going to be humid heat. It's going to be dry heat, and that's going to be good for training camp. So let's do a 49ers Q&A, since a lot of you are obviously eager for this as we open the 49ers 2023 season. I'm glad that I was able to bring you some of the good news this morning, because you apparently weren't watching on the weekend, which I don't blame you. But, some people like you have a good life on the weekend. And, even those of you who watch, I'm not attacking you. I appreciate you for watching on the weekend. But I get it if you wanted to take one more weekend off before football season stopped. Go for Broke said Purdy had been throwing a regulation football for a while now. Yes. Doesn't mean that he's going to be cleared, though, tomorrow. Practicing is a different thing than just throwing. So if he's cleared, if Brock Purdy does not land on the PUP list to begin training camp, he is massively ahead of schedule. It would be unbelievable news if Brock Purdy is not on pup for the 49ers. I have long expected him to be on pup. Recently, I've tempered those expectations a little bit. I'm like, ooh, I mean, it sounds like this recovery is going a lot faster than some people anticipated. So it's one of those things that we will end up just waiting and seeing tomorrow. Will Brock Purdy be on pup? See some more questions. Even if Brock Purdy's on pup, he can be taken off at any time. Yes, pup is not a big deal. It's not injured reserve. You put him there just in case because you can't put him on pup after he's practiced. So you start training camp with him on pup if he can't quite practice yet or isn't cleared to practice. How did the arm release criticism start? Well, the arm release criticism was very fair. I think it was, I mean, throwing coaches, just football people in general, watched Trey Lance and saw that he had a big looping release. It wasn't a nice tight release that you need at the NFL level. So there's been nothing, awry with the fair criticism of Trey Lance's throwing motion, and that's why he's gone back to the drawing board to try to fix it. Now the thing is, he hadn't been at much of a drawing board before because he's so inexperienced, so few throws since the start of his college career. So mechanically, Trey Lance has been expected to play catch up. It isn't something that has shocked the 49ers. All right, more questions here. I have no idea how many starters I expect to see in the and then the rehearsal game. So you're talking about week 3? I thought you meant week 1. Yeah, week 1. I have no idea. Rehearsal game, I would expect to see all the starters, maybe minus Bosa and Trent Williams. Those are kind of the blue chip guys that don't need a rehearsal game at all. So I would say 20 out of 22 starters in that rehearsal game. Now, that's assuming that Brock Purdy is cleared and ready to go. Yeah, Kaepernick's throwing motion was not great. He was definitely a little slow to release the football, so that was part of the reason that he struggled. I think later in Kaepernick's career, he wasn't nearly as physically strong after all the surgeries that he had as he was earlier in his career. Obviously, ultimately, you always have to. It comes back to delivering from the pocket, right? In the NFL, Steve Young talks about this a lot. Steve Young was a great running quarterback throughout his entire career, but he didn't become truly sustainably great as a QB until he learned how to tie his feet together and deliver from the pocket. I think with Colin Kaepernick, the roster around him deteriorated over time, and he also wasn't nearly as physically strong by the end of his career with all those injuries that happened. So it was just a situation where those two things really, conflated, right? And he wasn't the same quarterback that he was in 2012 to 2013. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch will address the media tomorrow, I believe, at 11 a.m. Pacific time. 11 a.m. Pacific time. So I'm flying tonight. I can't fly in the morning. I might get there in time if I flew in the morning, but I'd be risking a delay. Don't want that. Don't have that private jet yet. Still got to work on that. 49ers Raiders joint practices began on August 10th. Thursday, August 10th, Friday, August 11th, and then Sunday, August 13th is the 49ers Raiders preseason game. So, day off in Vegas for fans and media on August 12th. I'm sure the 49ers and the Raiders will both have a walkthrough before their game on the 13th. As far as I know, Elijah Mitchell is healthy. It was just a minor situation during OTA, so he should be healthy to open camp, but we'll confirm that tomorrow or Wednesday. All right, one more time here. Why don't we put up the Lance video? This is from the internet. Trey Lance, nice Snappy release. Working with Jeff Christensen, the quarterback's coach who works on quick releases. It's going to be Trey. It's going to be Brock Purdy. It's going to be Sam Darnold. It's going to be Brandon Allen. 4 QBs in the mix for the 49ers this year. Do I feel bad for Jimmy Garoppolo practicing against the 49ers? Why would I feel bad for Jimmy Garoppolo? He's had a really nice career, good quarterback. He's got a lot going for him, making what, 24 million this year. It's good to be Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know why I would feel bad for him. He's an NFL QB, and I think that he's happy where he's at now in Vegas. And I think he also looks back fondly at his time with the 49ers. 49ers benefited a lot from the good quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. And Jimmy Garoppolo benefited a lot from being with the 49ers. That's all you can really say. Everybody wants negativity. Everybody wants something to be bad or not work. I don't see any here. I think he just got hurt too often, but he's healthy now. So you got to be happy for him. I'd feel bad for him if he was still hurt. That would really suck, but I think he's healthy now, and we'll see how he does with the Raiders. What are the camp battles? Oh, well, there are a lot of them because the roster is so crowded. Like, I think every single position is going to have something intriguing happening. I'm going to open up the depth chart here so you could take a look at it. By the way, Matt Barrows and I have got a 90-man roster review going. We review all 90 players on the 49ers roster. I'll get that open. It's up on The Athletic. And Matt had the 45 on offense, and I'm going to have the 45 on defense and special teams coming tomorrow. So you can go ahead and check this out on The Athletic. I'm tossing it up on the screen right now. There you go. A look at every offensive player entering camp. And then we have this right here to help answer Mike's question. This is the depth chart, which you can check out at the link that I'm putting into the comment section right now. So where are the battles? Well, you got one at QB, obviously. You got one at running back. I mean, is it going to be Mason or Ty Davis Price getting the bulk of the action behind? And, does Mason or does David Price challenge Elijah Mitchell? Because Elijah Mitchell has obviously had those problems with injuries. So I'm looking at that running back position. I'm looking at receiver. Ronnie Bell, Danny Gray. Does Chris Conley throw his name into the mix? Conley, a good run blocker. He's a burner, just like Danny Gray, 30-year-old veteran. Tay Martin has a lot in common with Kendrick Bourne. Good route runner, good hands. Does he throw himself into the possible 53-man roster consideration? Tight end, going to be really, really intriguing. Braden Willis, Cam Latu, the two rookies. Do either of them unseat Charlie Werner? I think they unseat Ross Dwelly, but that's also a question. I mean, as a rookie, you've got to prove yourself. Who's going to be the swing tackle? Is it going to be Matt Pryor? Or do we see Jalen Moore finally emerge and really grab hold of a solid spot on the 49ers roster? Or is there a dark horse like Leroy Watson? Guard is super crowded. I mean, you have the veteran Feliciano. You have Nick Zakel, who had a great offseason, according to John Lynch. But then you've got other guys like Joey Fisher and Il Manning out of Hawaii, rookie, undrafted free agents. I'm watching that position. D-line, that's going to be a hell of a battle. I mean, you've got Kalia Davis and Kerry Hyder at the bottom of the projected 53 for me. So, I mean, guys are going to have to fight to make this football team because you've got some rookies like Spencer Wagee out of North Dakota State, Trey Lance's former teammate, that are going to be knocking on the door, trying out for an edge rushing position. So defensive line's got a battle. Linebacker, D. Winters, Jalen Graham, Marcelino McCrary Ball, a bunch of youngsters trying to take over that third linebacker spot for Azeez Al-Shire. Cornerback, well, we know that Darrell Luter Jr. might be hurt right now. He probably will start on PUP. He was designated as physically unable to perform last week. The list opens in formality this week on Wednesday, so we'll see if Darrell Luter Jr. is on PUP or not. But if he is, that opens a little bit of a door for another rookie undrafted free agent, Deshaun Jameson out of Texas. So we'll see how the cornerback depth battle shakes out. And then at safety, safety, Jair Brown is a clear-cut favorite to be that third safety for the 49ers. But, I mean, somebody like Quantrez Knight may want to be heard from, right? Quantrez Knight impressed the 49ers enough as a rookie on the practice squad to earn a ticket onto the 90-man this year. So we'll look at that. And hell, even kickers got a bit of a battle with Jake Moody and Zane Gonzalez. So where are the camp battles? The answer to that question is they are everywhere. It's going to be a really, really fun training camp. And it starts with the quarterback position because that's what people care most about. Who will be the starting nickel? Isaiah Oliver, free agent pickup, was with the Atlanta Falcons before the 49ers. What are the most vulnerable spots on defense? So the second cornerback spot, and that's Deommodore Lenoir's spot. Talked about him, the hyena yesterday. He's got to perform, and he did down the stretch of last season. And the second edge rusher spot, I think those are clear. I don't think that third linebacker spot's that big of a concern because A, it's only going to be on the field at most 30% of the time due to nickel packages. And B, I think that the rest of the defense will help insulate that third linebacker spot when it is out on the field. So I think that second edge rusher spot and the second cornerback spot are the most vulnerable as a defense. D. Winters is one of the candidates for that third linebacker position. I don't know if Garoppolo will have the same problem with injuries with the Raiders. That's something that I think 49ers fans will actually watch with a lot of interest. Well, so, I mean, he's gonna Jordan Mason to get more carries. He's gonna have to earn it in training camp too. I mean, he did a great job last year in his role, but it's gonna be another battle in training camp. And I've heard good things about Jordan Mason, so we'll see how it progresses for him this season. Definitely hit that like button, and also we're getting to 40,000 today. I think we're like 50 subs away. So, I mean, there's almost 300 of you watching right now. So, there might be 50 of you that aren't subscribed, at least a dozen of you. So, let's see that count grow by like 10 over the next 5 seconds. Go ahead and hit that sub button. Let's get to 40K and celebrate the start of the season well. Mike says 54 away from that magic number of 40,000. Do I think the 49ers have more depth at offensive line compared to last year? Yes. Along the interior, they have more depth. I'm not sure about tackle. I think that the 49ers can be better along the OL this year if they do prove to have that depth, because I do think that the 49ers starting offensive line will be better than last year. 1 through 5, I have it highlighted right here. Obviously, you have Trent Williams, best tackle in football. But then the interior right here, Banks, Brendel, and Burford. I call them the law firm because of the name. Those guys were all first-year starters in 2022. So there were a lot of questions about them playing together, and as there should have been around first-year starters. But Banks balled out last year. Brendel balled out, earned a contract extension last year. And Burford wasn't quite as good, but he survived his rookie season. I fully expect all three of these guys to be a lot better in 2023 now that they're on year 2 of playing together. And then, everybody is focusing on Colton McKivitz, and rightfully so. He's the new starter on the line. But remember how many problems the 49ers had with Mike McGlinchey in pass protection. McGlinchey was actually better in pass pro over the past 2 years than he had been earlier in his career. He got stronger. He anchored down a little bit better, but he was still maybe slightly above average at best. Still some big whiffs and some big issues for Mike McGlinchey in pass pro, as good of a run blocker as he was. So the 49ers legitimately believe they can be better in pass blocking with Colton McKivitz than they were with Mike McGlinchey. Now, I know you asked specifically about the depth. So the depth that's the concern for me. It absolutely is, because what if McKivitz doesn't pan out, or what if McKivitz gets hurt? Because McKivitz has had some injury issues in the past. I know Williams has gotten hurt before. Who takes over as a swing tackle? You don't have Daniel Brunskill to break the glass in case of emergency anymore. He's now with the Tennessee Titans. So is it Matt Pryor, who started, 26, 27 career games, but hasn't been great in the NFL? Is it Jalen Moore, who's on his 3rd season with the football team and hasn't been great in the NFL, but I think does have some promise, has developed a bit? He used to be ahead of Colton McKivitz on the depth chart after all. Or is it somebody like Leroy Watson, college tight end, teammates with Burford, has bulked up over 300 pounds? Or is Watson still a year away? Or do the 49ers have to re-sign a Tom Compton or somebody like that who was last with their team a couple years ago? who's also not a great pass protector. I will say he's a bad pass protector, but a good run blocker. I don't know. And I think that you do need more than just your starting 2 tackles. You need more than just your starting 5 offensive linemen. There's a lot of good depth on the interior. John Feliciano was a nice pickup for the 49ers. He immediately gives them center insulation and guard insulation. So that was a good step forward. Zakel can give them center and guard insulation if he's taken the step forward that John Lynch said that he's taken. And then, of course, you've got some of your undrafted free agents. So you could see the potential here, but somebody has to step up, especially at tackle in the depth positions, to make the 49ers super comfortable about their offensive line. I don't see Burford moving out to tackle. I know he played tackle in college, but I think the 49ers see him as a guard. So I think if tackle goes down, I think you're looking at either Matt Pryor or Jalen Moore. Moore did a lot of starting during OTAs. I say starting, but a lot of first string reps during OTAs. But that's because Trent Williams wasn't participating in those team drills. So it looked like Moore was getting the initial look at that first left tackle spot. And who knows, maybe he's going to be ahead of Matt Pryor on the pecking order here when training camp begins. We're only 49 subs away from 40,000 talking 49ers football. But don't let that last. Make it 48 and then 47. Just count it down all the way to 0. So we're at 40,000 before the end of the day. Hit that sub button. Yeah, people really, really want Burford to move the right tackle, but I think the 49ers see him as a potential guard for an entire generation. They really love his mental makeup, and they like that strength, and they want that athleticism at right guard. I don't, I just haven't gathered that that's in their plans. I know he's played tackle in college, but San Antonio is a different spot than the NFL. The biggest difference in practice with the new defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, is that you're going to see the DC talking a lot more to the defensive backs. D'Amico Ryans was hanging out with the linebackers all the time because he was a former linebacker. Steve Wilks is a DB guy. So you'll see more work with the DBs from the defensive coordinator directly. By the way, Steve Wilks is also the 49ers official cornerbacks coach. When does Bosa get the bag? I think at some point this week, we're going to keep our eye out on it, but at some point this week, Bosa will sign the contract. He might not practice until he does, but that soft deadline is definitely approaching. What does the training camp look like? It looks like it does every year, except this year they're only going 3 on, 1 off. So 3 days on, 1 day off. 3 days on, 1 day off. Practices start from around 10:15 to 10:25 each day. I think most days actually 10:25 a.m. this year. Done around 12. A lot of walkthrough before that, meetings after that for the 49ers, a lot of strength and conditioning. No two-a-days anymore. Those haven't existed in about 15 years in the NFL. Do I expect more blitzes under Wilks? Yes. High blitz rate last time he was a defensive coordinator. Watching Trey Lance throw today. Thanks, Aaron. Lance, Jeff Christensen. Lance is going to be taking that flight from Dallas to the Bay Area. He's got a lot of options. You can fly Southwest from Love Field in Dallas to probably San Jose. You could take American Airlines. I think United does something to SFO. I wonder which one Trey Lance is taking. From Nashville here, I only have one direct option to SFO. It's United, Star Alliance. Got to get some status, though, for all those flights to Europe. More business class, the better. Wilks does like the bird's eye view coaching from the booth. I don't know. I'll ask Trey if he flew first class. Or for domestic, it's business. I don't think there really is first class in domestic, especially American Airlines. These domestic American Airlines aren't the greatest. Fly like a 2-hour flight in Europe on Turkish Airlines. You're going to get in coach. You're going to get a 4-course meal with actual silverware, and you'll be absolutely blown away. I think Turkish is the best airline in the world. Obviously, Emirates is good too, and Etihad is good as well. None of the domestic American carriers can hold a candle to the service that you're going to get abroad. Sad. A lot of dining and food recommendations will be on their way over the course of the season. Kind of took a couple weeks off from that just because I wanted to lay low and chill after all that travel. And I heard that Asian airlines are good as well. But I don't. I haven't taken any. You're gonna try to get out to Japan in April, but probably we'll take United just because the status there. So probably won't have a chance to experience that. But anything but airlines in the United States, that ends up being the rule of thumb. What should we expect for content tomorrow? Yes, Kyle and John press conference, and selected players will be speaking. No practice though on Tuesday. Practice won't be till Wednesday. Like Alaska is fine, but it was better when it was Virgin America. When Alaska and Virgin America merged, they should have taken the Virgin America brand because it was a lot better than the Alaska brand. But I get into arguments with people about all that all the time. Alaska's got this very devout loyalty, devout following from certain people. Yeah, I could give some Nashville food recommendations. If you're ever in Nashville, you should go to a place called Assembly Food Hall. It's right across Broadway from Bridgestone Arena, which is where the Nashville Predators play hockey. And it's up. You take the escalator up, and it's above Justin Timberlake's bar and restaurant, which is also cool. But you go all the way up to this food hall, and they have like a sampling of a lot of cuisine from Nashville in one place, and then it's right by all the bars on Broadway, and it's right by the hockey arena. So you could really get yourself fed well. And if you're with your wife or something, she wants to eat something else, it's all good because you could go to different spots up there. See you in Pittsburgh week 1. Yeah, let me know where you are. Come and say hi. You want a good meet and three? Yeah, I made a video, one of those. Go out to the Fox and Hound in Leapers Fork, Tennessee, which is going to be south of Nashville, maybe 20 to 30 minutes near Franklin, Tennessee. Fox and Hound. Celebrities will hang out there just to kind of get away from the hustle and bustle. And the real cool part of this area is the countryside. It really is. It really is special. If I want to be in a city, I'd rather be in San Francisco, kind of in a more walkable city. The countryside here, though, really is special. So Leapers Fork, Tennessee. Check out the Fox and Hound. Osaka. I want to go to Osaka, Japan then. That'll be fun. I think every week in the NFL is hard, especially week 1. You saw the 49ers lose to the Bears last year. You never know what you're going to get in week 1. Every single team's going to be motivated. Everybody's still alive in week 1. Hopes are high, so they're playing it like a playoff game. It's the National Football League. It's not going to be easy for the 49ers in Pittsburgh. Plus, it's Pittsburgh. I mean, Mike Tomlin's been there for 20 years. The Steelers have always played tough at home. You've got to travel if you're the 49ers. It's not going to be an easy win. It might not be a win at all for the 49ers. I don't think that Shanahan will disclose anything more than he has to tomorrow. They're going to, like, the 49ers don't need to predetermine Brock Purdy's availability for the next 2 months right now. With the PUP list, they could determine it day by day, which makes the PUP list so special. It's not the IR, so they could take this day by day, maintain all the option power possible. Really, it's the first Pittsburgh home opener in 8 years. I didn't know that. Well, how many away are we, Mike? Are we creeping up toward 40,000? I'm going to be on 95.7 The Game here in 20 minutes if you're in the Bay Area, if you want to listen on the radio. And this is a good question. The 49ers have seemed to start slow the past few years and then go on a tear. Do I see the same with changes to players and coaches? Maybe. I think that Shanahan's offense is so complex, but then once it's fully figured out, can really unlock a lot of he set stuff up over the course of the season. Let's put it that way. So it can unlock a lot of openings later in the season. I think that's why you see the offense snap into rhythm as the season goes along. But it's interesting because the changes this year are on the defensive side of the ball primarily, right? With Steve Wilkes, the new defensive coordinator. So if the defense is going to have a little bit of an adjustment period, it's going to put more pressure on the 49ers offense to come out of the gate firing. So maybe Kyle Shanahan's going to focus on that this year. I don't know. Every season is its own story, but I do agree with you. There has been a trend of the offense starting a bit slower. I don't think there's been a trend of the 49ers defense really starting slow. In 2021, yes. But in 2021, they just didn't have the same talent as they normally do. Chris Kaserik had to develop some pass rushers. This year, they've got Hargrave on the defense. The defense is loaded. I think the defense is ready to start fast, but they have a new coordinator. So maybe from a schematic standpoint, there will be some hiccups. And if there are, the offense is going to have to carry the weight early. All right, only one person has subbed since the last time I said the sub. So get on that. Hit that sub button. We're 48 away from 40K. All right, man. We'll see you later. Thanks for watching. What? I mean, the 49ers defense dominated the Bears for, I would say, 95% of the plays in that game. There was a really fluke play, busted coverage to Dante Pettis that completely turned everything around. It wasn't, you can't say that it was a great second half from the defense because they did give up that play to Pettis, but if you go watch the tape, they were completely overwhelming Justin Fields and the Bears for most of that game. If the 49ers offense had just executed a little bit better and, put the Bears away in the first half like they should have, we went through that Trey Lance tape. I don't think we're talking about the defense having a slow start in that game. Yeah, it had to be Pettis. Pettis ruins the 49ers home field advantage, which might have ruined their Super Bowl chances. Unbelievable. On a fluke play. That hurt for the 49ers last year. Was similar. 49ers offense didn't do much of anything all game. Lost like 11-10, one of the ugliest football games I've ever covered. That was Jimmy Garoppolo's first start back from the injury, right? So a little rusty. Wasn't able to just wing it the way that he did the week before against the Rams, but the offense got better from that point on over the course of the season. These seasons are long. Smash the like button. A lot of penalties for the 49ers. Maybe that's part of the 49ers starting slow. Maybe it was the refs with some home cooking. Who knows? It's in the past. Time to move on. That's true. Yeah, the defense did have in the second half have some penalties. I just think, I think you have to look at these games in terms of flow. And the Bears literally did nothing, nada, in the first half. And the 49ers left at least 2 touchdowns on the table in the first half. And it was 10-0 at the break. If the 49ers scored just one of those 2 touchdowns they left on the table, it's 17-0 at halftime. And we're not talking about the defense and penalties because the Bears were not coming back from 17-0. They came back from 10-0. They weren't going to come back from 17-0. Now, if the offense plays lights out, then it should have been 24-0 at halftime. But the offense left so much on the table in the first half, it wasn't a good complementary effort. It was only 10-0 when it should have been a whole lot more, which is why I don't like to blame the defense against the Bears. Yeah, but the Falcons game, the 49ers were completely beaten up. They were very, very shorthanded in that Falcons game. They didn't have Bosa. They didn't have a lot of their defensive line. They didn't have some of their secondary. I think Charvarius Ward got hurt in that game. And the Falcons just had that brand of football the 49ers play where they just run it down your throat. That was a game that was going to be tough for the 49ers to win, shorthanded as they were. I think that the defense, I mean, a lot of takeaways, they've statistically shown that it is luck in the NFL, but I think that not all of it is. And I think the 49ers are trying to build a defense that is gunning for those takeaways. That's why they have such an obsessive focus on the defensive line, on edge rushers for guys that come off of the edge to get to the quarterback when the quarterback, collapse the pocket where the quarterback can't really see them because he sees them last minute. And if you see him last second, then you rush a throw and your defensive backs can pray on the ball. You want linebackers who are going for the strip, and the 49ers are focused on the ball. So I think a lot of it came together due to focus at the end of the season. But I think that there's also luck that's part of it. And the 49ers did have some deflected interceptions. But even deflections aren't fully lucky, right? You have to make the deflection happen, and then you have to get lucky to be able to grab it and hang on to it. They did focus on the football. Weekly takeaway meetings called the ball meetings. And they have a guy named the ball father. That's Nick Sorensen, one of their defensive coaches who runs these meetings where he just focuses on takeaways, plays around the league that generate takeaways, and also focuses on avoiding giveaways. And the 49ers actually finished number one in the NFL last season in turnover margin. They led the league with 20 interceptions, and they finished number one in turnover margin. Jimmy Garoppolo stopped throwing interceptions last year. Brock Purdy didn't throw all too many, threw a few more than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Brock Purdy probably got away with a few too down the stretch, but it played great. We're just talking about the 49ers QB position objectively. They lowered the interception rate significantly, and they need to keep it lower. And that's going to mean that Brock Purdy needs to stay away from some of those close calls in 2023. So they lowered that, and they raised the takeaway rate with those 20 picks. The secondary got a lot better. The secondary started preying on some footballs. And again, the defensive line wasn't great as a whole, but they did generate some effective pressure. And it obviously started with Nick Bosa, who was great as an individual. I think Wilkes will blitz more, yes, because you've got to mix it up on defense. Otherwise, you're going to get roasted by the quick release game. If it's just your defensive line, well, the offense can snap and throw, snap and throw, snap and throw. The quick game can really get to you. But if you've got some well-timed blitzes, even the quick game won't work because you're going to get into throwing lanes. You're going to be all on top of the quarterback. You're going to have a guy essentially with a running start if he's timing the snap count. So I do think that the 49ers will blitz more into Steve Wilkes because that has been his tendency. Ian says, expect the secondary to keep improving. Starting safeties are going to be Talanoa Hufanga and Tashawn Gibson Sr., with Jair Brown working his way into the mix. All right, everybody, hit that sub button. Thank you. It's been fun. 49ers Q&A was all good. One day away from the 49ers vets reporting to training camp. Sub now. We're going to get to 40K after a 40-minute show. Bye.